Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. I'm Dave, hanging out with these nerds.
Hey, I'm Ryan.
I'm Ted.
And today we want to talk about some really big news in the Dungeons and Dragons world, Wizard of the Coast. We're talking about the open gaming license for 5th edition and SRD.
Some crazy, interesting stuff, interesting times.
Totally came out of nowheres.
Out of nowheres, and in months of discussion, with random people on Twitter or whatever, like the Angry GM and other people were talking about the potentiality of the open gaming license if that's ever coming back. Most people were skeptical to think that it would ever happen again. Because this did happen before in third edition. It happened before,
and it brought companies to the surface that were minor or weren't even really there, and they got a major foothold because it's oh well, I've got access to this property and a bunch of creative people. Let's make something out of it.
Yeah. Now, but the problem is it also spawned their largest rival competitor, Paizo. Pathfinder literally would not have existed if it wasn't for the 3rd edition iteration of the open gaming license, the OGL. So, it's maybe I thought they were going to be gun shy of well, what if we create our next competition and, then the market shrinks even more for them. So it was a little thing of they might not ever bring it back.
I wouldn't think they would bring it back either. But then again, too, competition spurs innovation. Mm-hmm. And really, they tried to do something new and different with Dungeons and Dragons with 4th edition. It worked for bringing new gamers into the hobby, but it did not work for retaining old gamers.
It didn't do fan service for the people that were already there.
Yeah.
And in business, they always say that you want to kind of love your customer that you already have most because it's easier to retain them.
Right.
And they did not follow that advice at all. They kind of alienated everyone that was there who became Pathfinder fans.
I don't think it alienated everybody. We played 4th edition for a while. And it really wasn't the detriment of 4th that made us go astray. Somebody else was well, I'd like to run this other type of game.
And then we found basically another, D&D clone, really, in superheroes with
right.
Mutants and Mastermind because of the OGL. They did a D20 game. We started playing that for a while. We really enjoyed it, and that's also one of the gifts of the OGL. Is the fact that we get to see these other games that are borrowing or leaning on the mechanics of...
Right, that they were jumping off points of. Yeah.
And, I want to say, even with 5th edition, Wizards of the Coast, they really have changed their whole business model and structure. And they've gone really lean. They have a really light team. They're outsourcing to third-party publishers.
Yeah.
And really they're doing what they have to do to survive.
To survive the times, because it's something that you had brought up before with the idea that they're part of Hasbro, and Hasbro as a major corporation is going to look at all the properties they own and if Dungeons and Dragons is so piss poor performing, eventually they're all right, well, let's sell this off and not worry about the hassle of it.
So that's probably why they did 4th edition. They're well, what are we going to do to keep this alive, mm-hmm. right? But the beauty of that, right? The beauty of that failure was, in essence, one, they created a lot of cool mechanics from that game that ended up in 5th edition.
They got recycled through, which look, Pathfinder fanboys, don't bullshit yourself, all right? Mm-hmm. Some of the things that actually happened in 4th edition are in your beloved Pathfinder. The leaner skill system, totally there. So, and also there's been the Pathfinder fanboys that are oh, the OGL, it's just like what Pathfinder did.
Yeah.
No, you're about a decade late on that, son. So,
it's all that is true, but I think what 4th edition taught them, it wasn't so much about the fan service and the rift it created. It was about the way they were trying to run an RPG company business. Mm-hmm. Was 80s and 90s, and we're now in the 2000s, and it has to change.
Right.
It has to be lean. It has to be fast. They're a lot more conservative about putting out products than they were. And I think it's all from a cost perspective. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, as gamers, a lot of times we don't like to look at the business part of it, and people get their panties in a bunch over it.
They want to put the creative and the art form over the fact that it's a business. They have to, like, everyone there has a mortgage and a family they have to support. So, like, the idea of being more sparing or sparse with putting out books, it means that, like, if you really want to buy into this edition of Dungeons & Dragons and consume the content that's created for it, well, if they're putting out a sparsity of books, you're gonna have to buy that book, which means they're putting probably bigger pressure on, like, inventories and getting better rates on it, right? So as opposed to releasing like 10, 12 books a month, they're releasing like one. Yeah.
Well, and not only that too, I think they're trying to put out better products that people will want to buy. Whether they do it or not, I'm just saying that I think that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
That's
well, I mean, like,
good is always very.
It's relative, but also too, like, I mean, the Sword Coast book, like, it had some cool stuff, but when we had the discussion of would you pay the actual full cover price for the content provided, no, it was a gloss over of the realms of the Sword Coast, and you got some little bit of novel mechanics. So if you get the Amazon early buyer rate, yes, but retail pricing, no. Like,
yeah. I mean, just in general, there wasn't a lot of book there, so
it was a little light. But of all the books that had been put out and published, it also was one that had the most player content. Like, it wasn't an adventure guide like the other ones, where it wasn't an adventure book like the other ones. This one had class options, background options. It had a lot more to it. So for me, who is buying the books to support the hobby, to get access to little.
Real quick, right? This is actually supposed to be an OGL discussion, but that just comes back to the business of an RPG in a way. Ted, what is your job?
I work for a book publishing company doing customer service.
Okay, so do you understand the relationship between a book publishing company and Amazon? Mm-hmm. Okay. I honestly feel like they are inflating the prices of the books because they know they're going to sell them on Amazon, and
get the margin they actually want.
And the prices are going to be hacked in half anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like Amazon is actually pushing the price of the books because they just assume most people. Sure, there's a ton of people who go, I'm going to buy it from my friendly local gaming store, but for every one of those people, how many people are actually going to buy it from? An online.
I mean, that creates like an interesting and sad dynamic for the retail store. Like, they're kind of getting pushed out of the equation if the book prices become so unreasonable. Like a $50 book, I mean, a 200-page book. That's a hard sell for most people.
It is. I mean, WotC, to their credit, are doing what they can. Like, they give them preferential treatment as far as release dates, and free material to run games in their stores and stuff. But again, it's a tough position. I don't think it's the gaming store's fault, and I really don't blame WotC either. Like, they have to deal with the reality that's presented to them. They can't afford to lose money on a book because everyone's buying it on Amazon. Right. So they have to find whatever that happy medium is for them.
And Amazon really does say, okay, this is what you want to charge for the book. This is what we're going to charge for it, and there really isn't room for negotiation.
They're Amazon.
Yeah.
So, so back to the OGL though. So the good thing about the OGL is we're about to get all that content you're not getting. You're about to get it in spades. Yeah. But I'm not going to say it's going to be good.
Right. Well, I mean, it's going to be like, there was crap in the original OGL, and then there's some fantastic stuff that came out of it. I mean, Mike Merles, got his start working for Sword and Sorcery. His name is credited in books that were, printed in the 2000s. So he got his start under the people that were doing the third-party publishing for D&D.
And there's a lot of people
and Chris
that
Perkins,
did that.
too, yeah.
There's a lot of people that did that. And that being said, there was a couple companies that I would always buy and use their stuff, no problem. The Sword and Sorcery, which was actually White Wolf, put out good stuff for 3rd edition.
Mongoose was pretty good.
Mongoose was the other one.
Yeah. Frog God and also Necromancer, I had some friends that were pretty big proponents of their stuff being sort of balanced.
Swords and Sorcery, I did like. They put out a lot of monster manual type things. Every once in a while, though, there would be something that just was like, whoa, that went out of left field.
Yeah.
It was like, I can't use that one. I can't. That needs changes. That needs tweaks. And, anytime you've got, this type of thing, the OGL is going to give access to all the people who are interested in spending money and not getting enough product. This is the way it's going to happen. With 5th edition, we're definitely more in a digital age than we were with 3rd. So there's there's definitely going to be a lot of ebook purchase type stuff as opposed to actually print it and have it on the shelf. Although some of that is still possible. And just like with 3rd edition, some things are going to be out of left field. Not everything's going to be checked and balanced, but you're going to get lots of stuff because I think a lot of people are going to jump on this and say, maybe I'm the next Mike Morales.
What?
Well, let's also say too, like let's not be romantic about this or facetious about this. Like it's kind of a thing we have interest in because we've already made one adventure, and it was a little gray area the way that I wrote it because it's like, well, I don't know if we're gonna get dinged by Wizards of the Coast for this, but now it's completely legitimate. So the Crinch adventure, the Crinch Who Stole Father's Winter's Day, there could have been repercussions for that, and now it's completely legitimized. We just have to go back and put those 2 pages that are the disclaimer for the OGL, and we're golden.
Yeah. So one of the things is that was already happening. People were already producing 5th edition products, so they might have decided that they're just not going to fight the grain and they're going to go with it. And from this, the cream will rise to the top. I think I read something about a study where they did with they used pottery and they did 2 test groups. One was quality and one was quantity. Well, they got the best stuff out of the quantity, not the quality. There was tons of junk, but by and by the best pieces actually came from that quantity.
Thousands of monkeys with thousands of typewriters.
Yes, pretty much. It might have even been something that I was reading when I was, doing a little bit of research on the OGL. So with that being said, on Wizards of the Coast, you can go download the SRD, which is basically most of the player's handbook, most of the monster manual, and a chunk of the DMG.
Yeah, basically anything that's a named thing that isn't from mythology or history. That that's fair game. Anything, that it isn't fair game. So the Beholder, that was very much created by TSR. It's a thing that they have that little C copyright next to that you're not going to be able to use. So anything that doesn't have its origins in the common human history, it's not. It's not fair game.
Really odd though. Yeah. On a lot of the magic items and spells.
Yeah.
If it's named.
Yeah.
They just removed the name and kept the spell.
Well, yeah.
Acid Arrow instead of Melf's Acid Arrow.
Yeah. Well, so I guess we can come up with Milf's Acid Arrow, and that'd be fine.
We could.
Yeah.
It's the apparatus of the crab or something instead of the
apparatus of Qualis.
Yeah.
Well, it's totally coming to America. No, they're McDonald's. We're McDonald's.
No, I'm saying they did it.
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast did it in their SRD.
Yeah,
so they put it there so you can use the stuff. Contextually, they just protect it. The rights to their IP.
Right, yeah, McDarrell's. Yeah.
No, but if you want to use their IP, there's another way to do that, but we'll do that in another video.
Yeah.
So most of that stuff's all in there. There's mistakes too. They even said it.
Mistakes were made.
Yeah, Eldritch Blast is not listed, but they're well, we meant to list it, and there's an email. So if you feel like something's missing and it was a mistake, you can email them, and they're putting it together and fixing it. It seems like they kind of rushed with this announcement. I don't know, what happened behind the scenes to make them jump to do it. They've been working on it for a while, apparently.
Maybe they were just all right, we'll release it to the world, and and then we'll just modify and fix.
We'll Henry Ford this shit.
Yeah, we'll fix it as need be, because they probably look, this isn't going to directly make us money, so let's just put it out and patch things as we need to. So because it's not like it's a game book. It's just giving permission to people.
Right.
So,
yeah. It's basically the guidelines of what you can use, what you can't use.
Yeah.
Things. Things like you can't format your books the way WotC formats theirs. You can't use their template that's copyrighted by them. You're gonna have to come up with your own.
Yeah. Because they're paying a designer in house to do that for them, and so that's our burden to figure out.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we're gonna have to figure out our own design template.
So we're excited about it. We're excited about one. We can get into the space as publishers. We have guidelines to follow.
Well, and everything's legitimized, which is super important.
That's the biggest.
That's the guidelines.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, how many? All right, internet. How many people have you seen that do like the knockoff like fan art of like Deadpool as like Stitch or something like that? Like every single thing that is can go away because basically it's illegal. This copyright infringement. They're squatting on somebody else's copyright. So
sometimes 2 or 3 people's copyright.
yeah, exactly. Like so, like all that stuff is like pretty much illegal if you're selling like mass prints or T-shirts or whatever. Like anytime you get that like Facebook advertising some fan property, like all that shit's illegal. So it's nice to know that now we can actually make stuff and not have someone like come and shut us down at any given point.
Right, like we did something we considered legitimate with a shirt design and got shut down by Fox.
Yeah, absolutely, because it was totally fair, fair usage by parody. But if you're going to try to contend with a legal team of a major network, they're just going to financially exhaust you.
Yes,
so it doesn't even matter.
The 4 guys filming out of a basement is not a.
Surprisingly enough, we are not riding our private jets here to go record.
Yeah,
every
it's a
weekend.
Ted's basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you get an airstrip put in first? That's
Can't come in for landing.
Just do it on the street.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think about the OGL? How excited are you? What are you looking to see come out of it? Put your thoughts and comments down below. While you're at it, like, share, even subscribe.
Hang out with us over on Facebook.
You can even get sweet Nerdarchy swag over on Nerdarchy the store.
So until next time, stay nerdy.